Hello YouTube. Today I present to you Anita Sarkeesian, translated for common folk. I'll note I have no idea if she actually wrote this stuff herself or actually believes it for that matter. In any case, enjoy.
So I wrote some things. Can I just share this?
Because
I think it answers the question. If you'll bear with me. So how to be a feminist. I had to learn how to be a feminist. So throughout high school and college, I was involved with clubs, organizing against wars in the Middle East, raising awareness about climate change, and demanding gay and lesbian rights.
As a young person, I was very much willing to get involved in issues I didn't fully understand.
So I was heavily involved in social justice causes, but I still didn't call myself a feminist.
Social justice means any cause traditionally associated with the left wing.
At the time, I may have even uttered the dreaded phrase, "I believe in equality, but I'm not a feminist."
As we all know, feminism and equality are synonyms.
Yeah, not a high point in my life.
I was less popular then.
So like most people who grew up immersed in the neoliberal ideology of the West,
I grew up in the same society as everyone else in the West.
I saw the world largely as a series of individuals making their own personal individual choices.
I thought of people as people.
And here I was, a young woman making my own personal choices about what to wear, what to buy, what to study, and what I wanted to do every day. Within that narrow individualistic framework, feminism seemed like a relic of the distant past.
If we're all just people, feminism doesn't make much sense.
Back then, I thought sexism basically boiled down to a few bad apples with misguided personal beliefs born out of ignorance or overt hatred.
I used to believe the same definition of sexism as the rest of society.
So it wasn't until I was in my early to mid-20s that I began to realize my impression of feminism had been completely wrong. With the help of some amazing mentors and by reading a lot of feminist writing, especially the words of women of color and queer women from around the world, I learned to see through a sociological lens.
I read so much feminist literature that I was from that point on only able to see the world from a feminist perspective. My own individual perspective didn't matter anymore.
And understand the world as it really exists.
With my new green-tinted glasses, I can see that the world really is quite green.
As a series of intersecting social systems.
We are not people, we are categories. And sometimes those categories overlap. For example, you can be a woman, which is one category, but you can also be a black person, which is another category.
Once you have a systemic and institutional framework, you see how oppression manifests in many subtle ways under the systems of what Bell Hooks calls white supremacist capitalist patriarchy.
My new green-tinted glasses really do let me see all the green out there.
So not only did I have to learn how to be a feminist, I also had to learn how to be a feminist who understands systems.
I had to completely change my way of thinking, because no person who thinks in a normal, rational manner could possibly believe this stuff.
I had to learn how systems of oppression are maintained by our participation in them, but they're also self-perpetuating via paths of least resistance.
We contribute to bad stuff happening to us by the things we do as well as the things we don't do.
And as such, are larger than any one person's choices.
Since people are categories, when one of us does something or doesn't do something, it affects the whole category.
Okay, so this is the part where I say things that may ruffle some feathers.
I want you to judge this next part more charitably.
But I think it's a critical discussion to have. So over the past few years, I've become increasingly worried about the direction mainstream internet feminism appears to be headed, at least in the West. Unfortunately, many contemporary discourses in and around feminism tend to emphasize a form of hyper-individualism, which is informed by that neoliberal worldview.
Too many feminists see people as people rather than categories. They should train themselves to think correctly, like I do.
More and more I hear variations on this idea that anything that any woman personally chooses to do is a feminist act. This attitude is often referred to as choice feminism. Choice feminism posits that each individual woman determines what is empowering for herself, which might sound good on the surface, but this concept risks obscuring the bigger picture and larger fundamental goals of the movement by focusing on individual women with a very narrow individual notion of empowerment. It erases the reality that some choices that women make have an enormous negative impact on other women's lives.
Since people are actually categories, what one person thinks is good for them might actually have a negative effect on the whole category.
So it's not enough to feel personally empowered or be personally successful within the oppressive framework of the current system. Even if an individual woman can make patriarchy work for her, it's still a losing game for the rest of the women on the planet.
Remember, we contribute to bad things happening to us by the things we do and do not do. Since there is no you and no me, and there are only categories, the things you do and do not do can harm your whole category. So if you manage to be successful, you're actually helping to maintain the current system, and that hurts the category you belong to. Unless, of course, you're in a special category. See, there is a special category called men, and another special category called white people. When someone in these categories is successful, it not only helps everyone else in the category, but actually hurts every other category. When someone in another category is unsuccessful, it helps everyone in white and male categories. So for example, if a white man gets a promotion, that helps all white people and all men, and it hurts everyone else. If a Hispanic woman is unsuccessful, it actually helps all white people and all men.
The fact of the matter is that some choices have ramifications beyond ourselves and reinforce harmful patriarchal ideas about women as a group and about women's bodies in our wider shared culture. And because of how systems of oppression intersect and compound one another, it's women of color, indigenous women, women living in the global south, women with disabilities, queer women, and trans women who bear the brunt of these ramifications.
The more categories you belong to, the more likely you are to be affected by the things people do and do not do. So if something bad happens to one disabled black woman, it hurts every other disabled person, every other black person, and every other woman. It hurts everyone in every category she belongs to because remember, she's not a person, she's just a collection of categories.
Choice feminism also obscures the fact that women don't have a real choice. We have a very narrow set of predetermined choices within patriarchy. Women can choose from a pre-approved palette, but we cannot meaningfully choose liberation. We cannot choose a way out from our constraints, at least not without ending these oppressive systems that limit our options.
Remember, if we do good things for ourselves, it hurts everyone else in our categories. So everyone not in the white male category can't do anything good for ourselves. Only white men can do good things for themselves without hurting their own categories.
So when we talk about free choice in today's world, we're really talking about a very narrow spectrum of choices that are amenable to patriarchy.
There are very few things you can do that won't hurt your own categories.
So when we talk about how to be a feminist, for me, that means being committed to something much larger than ourselves. It's understanding what role you play in our collective movements for liberation. It's re-examining our desires and interests and understanding how those are often shared by how they're often shaped, maybe shared, who knows, by capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy.
If you have anything in common with a white male, it actually helps those categories, while at the same time it hurts your own. Feminists need to make sure they have absolutely nothing in common with white men.
It's understanding our own intersections of privilege and oppression and how that will fundamentally change our behaviors and attitudes and values.
Some of us are white, so when white men are helped, we are partially helped too. We have to resist the urge to do good things for that category and focus on ways we can help other categories we belong to.
It's realizing that being a feminist is a lifelong learning endeavor and that we will make some mistakes on the way, and we should be compassionate to ourselves when that happens. It's realizing that others will make mistakes and we should extend that compassion to them as well.
It's really hard to think of people as categories and to keep all these rules straight. So we have to keep reinforcing this way of thinking, or our minds will slip back into their default rational setting.
Feminism is not about striving for perfection, it's about striving for justice.
Equality and justice are the same thing, by the way. Okay, now listen to this next part, keeping in mind the translations I've made for you.
We are all connected. We are all bound together under the oppression of patriarchy, and as such, our personal actions or inactions do have a harmful effect on other women, especially those from the most marginalized communities. I realize this isn't a popular thing to say, but I can't say it apparently. That's how bad it is. No. But feel-good personal empowerment is not how to be a feminist. In order to be a feminist, we have a responsibility beyond ourselves. We have a responsibility to each other, and we have a responsibility to work for the collective liberation of all women.
So, in summary, according to Sarkeesian, feminists need to think in the following terms. People are categories, not individuals. If you're a white person or a male, your actions affect your category positively and every other category negatively. If you're in any other category, all but a very few actions negatively affect your category, while at the same time positively affecting white people and men. This system obviously needs to change, in her opinion, but she actually doesn't present any methods for achieving this noble goal. And now for some highlights from the question and answer portion of the video. Enjoy.
Absolutely. I sort of joke about how it was the most liberating thing that ever happened to me, and also the most frustrating for everyone around me. Because like when you start learning about systems, everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out to everyone all the time.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out to everyone all the time.
What you've stirred up is much more than that.
I just talk about video games. I don't know what everyone's problem is.
You what? You don't know what the problem is?
I don't know what their problem is. I just talk about video games.
Very serious.
I know, right? Yeah, so it is about, I know, God, I should just cave right now. Yeah, I mean, it's the... This sort of goes to show how important the media is in a lot of ways, right? That like what I talk about in representations actually has an impact on our society. And you know, it's not a monkey see, monkey do relationship, but that the media is one of our socializing components. And games are really bad to women. They just represent women really poorly across genres, across platforms, across like indies and AAAs. I'm told every day for 3 years or more to stop doing this, right? That I'm not...
Who tells you to stop?
The internet.
The internet.
Right? That challenging the status quo results in threats of violence and acts of violence is unbelievable. Intersectional structural feminism fundamentally changed my life in every regard. It changed who I was friends with. It changed my relationships with my family. It changed how I talked. It changed the choices that I made, education and career choices. It changed everything for me.
Who tells you to stop?
The internet.
The internet.
Right.
So I hope you enjoyed that video. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe, or share as you see fit. And I wish you all the best.